All right, so what I'm going to try to demo for you is how I sort of lay out a blank piece of paper if I'm going to start doing some thumbnail sketches. So the first thing, what I want to understand is what are the proportions of my theater. So for the University Theater, for UT, we're looking at a theater that is 44 feet wide by 21 feet tall, roughly, depending on how much the building has settled. So I look at this and I think, okay, 21 goes into 44 two times. It'd be 42 into 44. So let's just say it's 2 to 1. So then what I try to do is I create a small scaled proportion that is basically 2 to 1. So I'm going to give myself some guidelines. So first I'm going to measure down and say about an inch down from the top. And another inch down. I'm just going to give myself a baseline here. It's just a guideline. Again, this doesn't have to be super perfect, but I'm a little OCD, so there you go. So if I'm going to do a 2 to 1 ratio, it's going to be 2 times wider than it is tall. So for me, I'm just going to start very small. I'm going to do 1.5 inches. No, I'm not. I'm going to do, 2 inches. So 2 inches is going to be my height of my proscenium, which means if it's 2 to 1, it's going to be 2 inches tall by 4 inches long for my thumbnail sketch. So I've marked down 2 inches. I'll mark down 2 inches here and give myself another guideline. This is a baseline, sort of where the floor of my proscenium arch would be. So now I've got roughly in proportion 20 feet, 21 feet, whatever we want to call that. Now I'm going to make the width. So I'm going to come in from the edge of my paper about 1 inch. And if I come in 1 inch, an edge of a proscenium here, and notice how it's on the 4-inch mark. This is a 4-inch mark there. So if it's 2 to 1, here's 2 inches. If I put a mark here, that would be a perfect square. So that would be my center line, roughly, of my proscenium. So that width is the same as this height. So I need to make that proscenium twice as wide. So if I go from 4 to 8 inches, and I give that to be my 44 or 2 to 1 proportion. So now I have roughly a proscenium height and a proscenium width. Now that doesn't mean I have to use that full width for any given show. You can choke that in narrower if you'd like. If you'd like the proportions to be a little more balanced, you can do that. But this just gives you a rough estimate of how to get this sort of box started, this proscenium sketch box started. So then again, I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to make a mark here for my second sketch. So I have 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch. So I'm going to go to there and I'm going to draw another vertical line and one more vertical line way down here. And I have now roughly 2 proscenium arch openings. So I'm going to erase some of this just for clarity. And notice how I have my center line there. It's going to be useful in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and put a center line in my second box here. Hopefully my big old head's not in the way. So there's 7 to 8, 8 to 9. That's halfway in. Put a little tick mark. Use my triangle. And I just give myself a center line. Great. So now we have 2 proscenium arches for begin our rough thumbnail sketches. I'm also going to do what I think is really important at this step is to give myself a sense of scale. So right now we're just dealing with proportions. We're not dealing with actual sizes or any kind of specific scale. We're just 2 to 1. So if we were saying that this is around 20 feet tall or 22 feet tall and this is 42 feet wide, I can now begin to estimate what a human size would be in that. So I can be very specific if I want. I can break this down into half. So now if we said this was 21 feet tall, now it is 11 feet and 11 feet in proportion. So half of 11 is 5'6". So if that's 5'6", then we can safely estimate that a human scaled figure is going to be roughly this tall. It's a little bit taller than that 5'6", because we typically use a 6-foot figure. So now I know I have a human figure standing at the proscenium line who's 5'6". I'm going to do the same down here, and I can just copy that dimension if I want to, so it looks like it's 9/16 of an inch. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/16 roughly for a figure. So I'm going to give myself 9/16 here. It's halfway. Head, shoulders, the waist is halfway down, and the legs. There, I've got my 2 reference figures. All right, so now I'm ready to begin sketching, because I know inside of this space is my playing space, or my accessible or readily available viewfinder for my theater. So I can, at this point, also figure out where I might want a horizon line. And that horizon line is typically either going to be lower than or equal to the height of a standing figure. So I'm just going to use that eye sight, that eye line, as my horizon line. And again, I'm only roughing this in. I'm not being super accurate. So that's my horizon line. It goes right through their eyes as it breaks the picture plane. So I'm going to kind of put in roughly a floor. So I'm going to use the center vanishing point as my guide, because it's on the horizon line. So there I have one angle, second angle. I'm going to do the same over here. And what I'm finding, or what I'm calculating, is a very simple look at the floor. How much floor do I have? So if this is my proscenium line, we have a little bit of an apron, so I'm going to roll down in front of that just a tiny bit. And I'm going to give myself an extension of that floor. So that's the part of the stage that comes out in front of the proscenium. And I'm just going to roughly make the height of that stage down here. Okay. Now I need to find the back wall of the theater. And typically that back wall is going to be below the horizon line by about 1/3 of the distance. So if this is half, down here is where the back wall typically should sit. So I'm going to use my ruler again and estimate what 1/3 of that space of my horizon line is. And then I'm going to just simply make a construction line where it intersects my diagonal lines. So now I have, this could be where the back wall of the theater is, right there. I'll erase some of this. Now what you may be noticing is how narrow a space you have to locate your set. So everything that sits on the floor of this theater sits between this edge and that edge, and everything that you want upstage of the proscenium must sit here. So if I'm sketching, now I'm going to just make some bizarro set here. I want to have something that kind of, if this is going up to the horizon line, if I'm above the horizon line, it's going to come back down. And then I'm going to have another little wall here. And that one flattens out, flat to the audience. And then I'm going to have some crazy long wall here. So I've got this very sensitive 4-walled set. And everything is located where it hits the floor on that stage floor. This is my stage floor from this shape here. Okay, so if I have an archway there, since now I'm above the horizon line, I know that if the bottom of the wall is coming up to the horizon line, the top of the door, now that it's above this horizon line, has to come back to it. So I could calculate where this hits here, and then simply take that angle, if I want it to be somewhat accurate, and guesstimate that. And on the top of the wall, look how close I was. That's not too bad for an old guy. So there's the door arch. If this is the bottom of the set, going to here. It's going to hit the horizon line somewhere way over here. And there's my top of my wall here. So you can see, even when I was just roughly calculating it, that was pretty accurate. And since this is flat to the audience and parallel to the picture plane or the proscenium, the bottom and top are parallel to the top and bottom of the proscenium, just like that. And then since this one is again angling up to the horizon line, it vanishes way over here somewhere, that's going to be a much shallower calculated angle as well. So there I have it. I can go in there and begin to roughly put in windows if that's what I want, or whatever it is that you're trying to place. I want mine to be dark behind here. So notice how I've also kind of choked in the proscenium on both sides, roughly about the same size. And the reason why I knew that that door needed to be about this high was because of this reference height of a figure. So go in there and take away the sill. I'm going to say that there's the thickness of that door. And we see the depth of that window, and we see the underneath side of the window because we're looking up underneath that. It's above the horizon line. That's our horizon line there. Okay? And then, again, this is sort of a quick, basic, rough idea of some weird little box set that I have no idea what it is. But, you know, over here I'm going to do another one quickly. If I was doing something that was a little more organic, I might say, oh, I want to have sort of a large circular angled platform. So I'm just going to roughly sketch an oval in here, and then comes here, and then I want another sort of weird little lower platform here. And again, we're seeing a very slim part of the deck, this depth, because we're below the horizon line. If it hits the stage here, this one hits the stage here. Kind of a funky, it's hard to talk and draw at the same time. And then I just realized, oh, this maybe comes out over the front of the stage a little bit here. Good. So basically I'm creating a set for Euripides or some kind of crazy organic world. And if this is the figure's height at the proscenium line, as that figure moves upstage, it's going to get smaller. It's going to get shorter because of the way that, you know, foreshortening and depth of field works. So if we said that was about 9/16, if I want to put a figure standing here, which is far upstage, they're going to maybe only be about this tall. So I'm looking at, instead of 9/16, which is what I had here, I had this figure at 1/2 inch plus 1 more 16th is about 9/16. Now up here I've got a figure that is underneath a 1/2 inch, which is 8/16. So I'm at about 7.5/16. So it's proportionately smaller. And, you know, then I'm going to have some crazy portal that's cut out that gives us this elliptical look into whatever this world is, and that's sort of a cut drop. So I'm going to come back in here, quickly give a sense of value and focus on that. So I'm going to say that this cut drop is maybe cut out of black velour or something like that. And then I take my blending stick and quickly soften this sort of in a cheater's method. But nothing is cheating in art. And so all of a sudden, very quickly, we have these two little thumbnail sketches of two drastically different environments. But this is what I'm talking about when I say just do a quick thumbnail sketch. The prep, it's sort of like when you're ever painting a house. It takes longer to tape off the house and remove the switch plate covers and everything else before as it does to do the actual sketch. It's this that will start to inspire you to think, oh, I wonder what this would look like if there was on the back of it sort of a colonnade of arches that allowed, you know, us to make entrances. And this could be sketch number 2. So you lay a piece of tracing paper over it, copy the general composition, come down here and do another one that incorporates this new idea based off of your first idea. It doesn't have to be 12 or 14 or 10 completely unique sketches. It could be building off of one another. So that's the process of this sort of thumbnail sketch idea. So hopefully this video helped you a little bit and it wasn't too long, and I will share it with you soon.